Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for 7025 Strathmore. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions you have based upon the comments that you received. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and it looks like we have everybody here now. So I'm going to ask Grace to highlight any of the major issues and then turn it over to you to ask any questions you might have.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. So I'm just going to briefly talk through some of the major comments that I see. In terms of the agency comments, there were a lot of DOT comments, and they speak sort of in unison with many of our transportation comments. And I think that there are probably some in here that we want to talk about today, particularly the use of the alley and what will be required at the time of preliminary plan, which is approval from the planning board and the MCDOT director to gain access from there. They're also going to be requesting a TIS study with operational analysis looking at both ends of the alley. Dedication on Strathmore and Woodmont will also be necessary with participation in some form of the midlock crossing and bicycle lanes. And the proposed drop-off area on Strathmore Street, it is too close to the curb right now, and it seems as though there's not much support for that particular location or design of the drop-off area. And then moving on in terms of public benefit points, I think some things we want to talk about today are there were certain categories proposed that we cannot support. In terms of the public open space, there actually is a public open space requirement for this site. Therefore, we cannot provide points for something that is a requirement. And then there was, in general, there were missing descriptions of the proposed categories. So it was really hard to determine if we were going to be on track for many of these. But in particular, the through block connection did not show the criteria that we need in terms of the Bethesda implementation guidelines for 30 points. It looks like it's closer to the 15-point mark. That in combination with the proposed vegetated wall, which we haven't really been supportive of these most anywhere. It's very hard to implement or be successful. So we really think that the team should be looking for other categories to help bolster and make sure you're going to achieve the minimum 100 points. We gave a couple offerings or suggestions. We think that public art would be a really good category here for officially putting in some details like you're showing in the renderings for the through block connection that could bolster actually your through block connection category and public art. We're also suggesting perhaps an increased PIP payment that you could receive points there, and perhaps additional MPDUs above the 15%. And just on that last note, there is language in the sector plan similar to what we just experienced for the Battery District, and that is to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing. And so that's another thing we're going to have to tackle here. I don't think DHCA provided comments at DRC, but it seems like it's going to be a similar circumstance there. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to the applicant for discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris Rulin with Lord Shirley and Brewer. We'll go through all of this. I think we want to spend our time primarily on the MCDOT comments that you were just talking about, but I would just like to say on the DHCA MPDU issue, there is a comment from DHCA, and it actually includes kind of the language that we just agreed to with the battery project. So we will, of course, be looking at that, working with DHCA. I appreciate that. This seems to be going down the same path. The recommendations are similar, so we have an approach. We think that to how to deal with this comment as we move through sketch.
Okay, thanks.
With that, I think we should probably use our time efficiently here. So Josh or Ian, I don't know if you want to focus on some of the transportation related comments.
Sure. This is Ian with FICA. Sorry that I'm not in person either. I had a late night pickup at BWI, which was a disaster, but it worked out. There are a couple comments that were regarding the sidewalk and the canopy. We are studying the drop off the canopy on the northern end there at Woodmont to try and see if we can get an additional row of trees to satisfy that guideline for the sector for the double row of trees. we're in the middle of doing that now, so hopefully when we resubmit that you'll see some of that in response. Again, some of the things that were in the DOT letter we are looking through as well. One of the mentions that Deepak had in there was that the Strathmore Street right-of-way is supposed to be 70, and in the sector plan, it does not state that. It says 60, so that's what we had indicated on our plans for dedication to get to 60 feet.
Ian, that's,
We
yeah,
are-
60 is correct. I think that was
Probably a typo.
yeah.
Okay,
We
great.
did talk about that back and forth. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, that's problem. No problem. And then we are meeting the required 40 foot on our side of Woodmont, so we should be good there. I think, like Chris had indicated, we've got some concerns with a few of the comments regarding the movements on the public alley and the width of that alley in entirety. And I do have the gross tract area study that we've got. If you want me to pull that up on my screen, the entirety of the alley was originally pulled from this property, and so I don't know that we feel that we are due to provide any further widening of any sort. So I'll just put that out there for the moment, and then we can discuss that moving forward. Your notion of the through block connection, we did hear from the DAP as well that they've got concerns, or not concerns, but interest in trying to understand what that's going to look like. So we do have some exhibits and sections that we have that we'll be working on for the resubmission to try and clarify what the look and the feel of that space. And the 7,000 Wisconsin plan that you see on the lower right to us on the south east corner of us did get 20 points granted. So I think we're probably headed in that direction. They have stairs, ours is flat. But again, we will provide as many graphics and sections and as much detail and clarity on that as we can at this point for sketch plan. I'm looking through, we did mention, Chris mentioned the DHCA comment that we got. The 3 frontages, Grace, you had mentioned that this site requires 10%. With 3 frontages, our net lot is actually below an acre. So that in the zoning ordinance states 5%. So that's what we're going to seek to do. And
I thought your tract, wait, Ian, I thought your tract was over an acre.
the gross tract is the net lot is under an acre.
Okay,
Can't
so
provide open space based on stuff that's out in a right of way.
no. So the requirement is to determine the amount of percentage is based on the gross tract area. So if your gross tract area is over 1 acre, then you are required to provide 10% of your net lot area. But the requirement to provide it is based on your gross tract area. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying, but we've never done it that way. Our open space has always been based on net lot.
So you have done, yeah, that this is Elza Heisel McCoy, Chieftown County Planning. That's what's written in the zoning ordinance. I think every project you've done has done it that way. If it hasn't, then that's a problem. But I think what Grace is saying is correct. So double check your numbers, and we can double check and take a look at the zoning ordinance. Grace is right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and circling back on that, Ian, 59454, if you look at the table, it's based on tract area. So that's how you determine what the percent is. And then you use the net lot for the actual square footage. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We did have several things on the DOT letter that we wanted to bring up as well. The truncation, I'm assuming that means at the corner where the alley meets Woodmont.
Yes,
Well,
I
and
think
also
that's what I think that's what the
Strathmore
DOT.
does too, right?
I'm sorry.
yes.
You don't have to truncate at the alley.
I didn't think so. We don't-
Yeah, so
No,
it would be where
yeah,
Strathmore does.
you know, Strathmore and
Yeah, that would be my understanding too.
Yeah.
But if we ran both of those property lines out, took 25 feet off, we'd be within that.
can you just show us,
Or
can you
Yes,
just show us?
we'll do that. We'll
And then
absolutely
the same thing we've been doing before with like sight lines, showing that everything's, adequate so that you can make good decisions as a motorist.
they never
Sure.
make
Oh, dear.
There was another comment regarding the, I can't remember the terminology here. I guess it's the, on the north side of Woodmont where the diverter is. I think that's what the comment was the diverter, to make some adjustments to that for the bikes. I don't think we have a problem with that, but initially we had talked with DOT Matt Folden, and you, Katie, I see you in the room, to discuss the possibility of full movement, which the applicant was interested in initially, was trying to gain a little bit more access to and from this site. I know that's probably going to be difficult, and I know what the sector plan recommends is an enhanced intersection here, with DOT working through the separated bike lanes on the north side, and then the bike share, which is just to our northwest, in combination with the limited turning movements for vehicles. I don't know that there's really much else we can do in the way of an enhanced intersection at this location.
That's okay. Ian, I think we just wanted to review it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean.
So again, regarding that, we were concerned about the bike lane, the bikes crossing that intersection over there, the right in where we're coming in. So even though there's no crossing, we think that the bikes are going to cross there. So we wanted to look at it. We're not 100% sure if that's going to work. We have to look at the site distance, how the crossing is going to be there. So if we can provide some concept or details, we'll have to run it past traffic as well to see if that works. So that's where we stand right now. So we want to make sure that if it works, that will be installed.
Yeah, and I don't think we're looking at trying to make that access from Strathmore onto Woodmont full movement. I think we are comfortable with it being right out, and that would actually work better if there's an enhanced crossing on the west side of that intersection.
Because they have a landing spot across the street.
Yeah.
Enhanced crossing for bicycles and pedestrians
No,
Yeah.
not for this.
Oh, just for cyclists?
Just for the bikes.
Okay.
Yeah.
on the west
Yeah,
side.
and that makes sense. We were thinking the same for pedestrians, and it made much more sense to use the one that the crosswalk that exists over at Leland.
Yeah,
to
and we're
push
open to
pedestrians
that.
over to
Because
Wisconsin
it actually,
too.
it might make sense, like it's interesting to see on here. You see how like there's that driveway that comes off of Leland?
Yeah.
It might make sense to get the bikes onto that, and because there's actually a marked crossing, perfect, Grace. You see on Leland Street where there's that that diverter,
Yep.
Grace? Yeah, that's where the current crossing is today, and that actually might be the most sensible place for it to stay. We just want to make sure that we can get cyclists there comfortably. And so I think given that you guys are gonna have an LATR and you're gonna have some offsite improvements,
Actually, right.
yeah, that probably makes sense to explore.
So we might take them from the sidewalk at Strathmore Woodmont intersection,
Mhm.
move them west
Mhm.
so that they can come up to the crossing.
Yeah,
Just make that
And
clean.
that's kind of in the general location where the existing bike share is anyway. So it
right,
makes,
yeah.
makes more sense to connect all that together.
Yeah, and then I think what would be helpful, so let's explore that, and then at the time of preliminary plan, you can address the master plan conformance, so we can say we've looked at having an enhanced intersection, and whatever we land, we can say that we've made that, we put that to bed.
It does seem
Sure.
safer than you have so many things happening on the north side of Woodmont across from.
Yeah, there's a
Strathmore.
driveway, and
There's
then
a
this.
lot going on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, and kudos to the master plan team, like, we want to explore it, but it just might not be the best.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Exactly.
with this, the dynamic that's going on there.
So what does our sketch plan submission look like to address that?
So what I would do is say that, you plan at the time of preliminary plan to finalize that, but that you recognize that we need to explore the options and look at the master plan stuff. Sketch plan, we don't need to be perfectly firm.
Okay.
Which is why we love
Right.
sketch plans.
So I guess really probably the largest thing is addressing the comments both from planning and DOT regarding the alley width and that. And then I've got one more thing that we wanted to bring up regarding schedule. So maybe
Okay. Yeah, let's talk
Um,
alley really quick, and I'll start and then I'm going to hand it off to Deepak. So we have a similar concern. So the public alley is 20 feet. You're right. We like the alley in concept, but we want to make sure that this is the safest that we can achieve. We had a similar issue with 7,000 Wisconsin on the opposite side of the street that you guys are linking to with your through block
Through block.
connection.
Mhm.
Right. The compromise there, given that the buildings are right on the 20 feet, right? This isn't a 20 feet with like some wiggle room and space. This is truly 20 feet, very tight. We would like to direct you to do the same thing that 7,000 Wisconsin did, which is they gave an extra like 4.5 feet of pavement. The building cantilevers over, but it gives you a little bit more maneuver space, and we would like to see the same treatment here. So you're effectively widening it along where your access would be so that the vehicles can actually make a more comfortable, forgiving maneuver. Is that fair, Deepak? Is that where you're at?
And also, if you look at the alley right now, the effective width is not 20 feet. That is also a concern. And the way you have the axis angle, I don't know how, and this alley being two-way, I don't know how cars are gonna make that yield with 20 feet coming out. And that's something to keep on the block, and the amount of traffic, this being the primary access, and 7,000 this month. Also having a primary access on this alley. This alley is going to see more traffic than usual. So that was a concern how that.
Sure, and I understand your comments, Deepak. The two things that I'll say about that alley are, it's 20 feet wide, which is the minimum width for two-way traffic. I think that we'd envisioned cars would be coming south on that alley to go into the garage, and then they would be going north out of the alley to Woodmont. That's one. The second was, you'd mentioned something about other elements that are within that alley that make movements difficult. It sounds to me a little bit more like an enforcement issue. I don't know that those things are supposed to be in the alley or allowed to be in the alley, and we don't certainly control those.
Now, not only that, there are utility poles as well, which makes it lesser. Now, it's not 20 feet wide. There are utility poles in there which is fitting in that alley within that 20 feet. That is a concern to us.
The first floor plan that shows the
Let me see if I can
how
find
we
it.
enter the garage, loading the whole thing, just so we can look at.
I might steal it from Grace first. Yeah, I think I
You
got you,
guys
Josh.
know, we can certainly look up the plans, but just for us to sort of review and understand what we might be faced with, what floor did the overhang start at for 7,000?
Second floor, if I'm not, I can double check, but I think it's the second floor.
To understand how
Have
much
it, Katie,
clearance
if
was
you want me to
provided.
share.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, do you mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's arch 6.
Not this one?
Oh,
I don't know that
Was it
you
this
have
one?
sight distance to garage access. Like, I don't think that you can see.
They won't be, and you cannot see. It's the way it's angled, it's gonna be tough to get access.
We don't intend to make a U-turn. We
Especially the
intend
cars
to
coming
go
out.
north.
There's no way you're seeing.
If they don't want, what if they don't want to go north?
They have to. I mean, that's the,
Then they don't have to, they'll make a 20-point turn.
Even the northbound, how are you seeing the vehicles coming from the other side? There's absolutely zero sight distance there. That angle is not gonna
Well,
work.
we can't turn it 90 degrees to the alley.
But if you're going straight, if you're going west too, then it's not.
We do have a truncation requirement even on the garage accesses. You have to truncate on the garage access so you can see.
truncating me to this.
I mean,
But you're saying that maybe you could readjust it to a 90-degree angle
We
instead?
can make it 90 degree. It will not improve it. That's why we angled it and just bit the bullet and said, okay, we're gonna bring people in from the north side.
Yeah, but what about going up?
Same thing.
Yeah, leave out to the north.
You go up
North.
north.
If you need to go south, you take Wisconsin.
you sure.
So-
I mean,
It's not
it's
not really pleasant to go down south. on the
Heading
alley.
northbound. How are they gonna see the vehicles heading northbound when you come out the garage?
Your side view mirror.
That's not.
I mean, we
You have
can,
to
we
have
can
clear sight-
open,
sight
we can
distance
open
on
the
it.
side, we can open the side wall of the garage. And that can be just on columns. We'll just fence it off, just make sure it's secure. It doesn't have to be a wall.
That sounds encouraging. What would be helpful, I think, thank you for working with us. I think that sounds good. If we can get a site distance analysis for that would be helpful. And then I know that this isn't typically required at sketch plan. We can wait till preliminary plan if that's a more appropriate time. But getting truck turning templates, and I think also Deepak, this is probably why you're here too, has asked for, an understanding of how the cars are going to move and volumes and things like that. That would all tie well together. And then I'm sorry, one other question. Just to confirm, what design vehicle? Is that an SU30? Is that what you guys are looking at, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so let's confirm that as well. I think that'll help with the
So
evaluation.
you need to show the truck going around the
Yeah.
90-degree.
Well, aren't the trucks coming to and from the,
Loading
They-
definitely.
they come down, loading, they back in, and then they go south,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, so you need to show me going southbound, like there's that 90-degree turn all the way down the end of the alley.
Oh, at the intersection of Bradley?
Bradley.
I see.
That was one of my comments. I need to see the turning movement at the.
Yeah, so
Design vehicle.
we don't know, Katie, we don't know road requirement that, you said site plan, so it's preliminary plan is when we require it. I didn't know where we go.
May I ask,
In our chat.
Yeah.
may I ask a question related to your last comment, just briefly?
Sorry.
The Camille also has its loading dock off the Sally.
Right.
How are they making the turn
Well, they-
at the intersection of Bradley and the alley?
You're making a fair point. What I guess what our concern is that we've gotten, I think, a little bit more strict about how we're trying to make this
I
work.
understand.
Yeah, we don't, so if something isn't working
I
today,
thought
we
they
don't.
may have
It's-
done some ramifications.
They
you
might.
know,
It just might have been a long
mitigation.
time ago. So we just want to make sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for reassuring us. We would appreciate it.
Is this going to be similar to, these are specific comments that we know we have to address and make sure adequately work at preliminary plan? Or are we changing plans now?
No, I mean, I think we want to give you a lot of heads up for preliminary plan. So, I mean, we don't need to have proof of concept now. We just want to give you as much of a heads up as possible. It would be so helpful if in your revised statement of justification that you say you're aware of this and you're working on it so that we can work towards that. Because yeah, this is, I mean, sketch plan is generally where you solidify your access points. So we want to just make sure we're dotting i's and crossing t's.
We need to acknowledge that we've been put on this. We're going to be thinking about,
Yeah,
we'll probably be thinking about it sooner rather than later. We just may not submit those things.
we encourage that. And I mean, you can still meet with us. We encourage you strongly to meet with us before you submit your preliminary plan, but
Yep.
thank you for thinking creatively.
I have one more question. I apologize. These things collect and I'm not sure what the best forum is to discuss it. But if we zoom out of this drawing just a bit, I would like to discuss the intersection of the alley
Mhm.
and Woodmont. Are there any plans in the future to rotate the alley in such a way to make a 90-degree intersection
You mean like,
at
like,
Woodmont?
like chamfer it?
Yeah, just truncate it, just move it. The concern is just going east towards Wisconsin Avenue. And it will provide, I think, a little bit more space for the alley. But
Yeah, I think what we're trying to balance is a couple of things here. I hear what you're saying. One of the things that we have is that we want to keep the traffic speeds on the alley low. We don't want to encourage people to be making some sloppy turns. So I think generally speaking, especially on something that's ideally relatively low volume and low speed for sure, keeping some hard rights. But you're right, if the trucks can't make it, then we need to look at either, limiting the traffic on this or maybe possibly making changes to the intersection. But I think we'd like to keep it as tight as possible. I appreciate you asking.
And while that picture's on the screen, Katie, I know we're probably likely to not have that bump in for the drop off.
Mhm.
Probably suggest something that's more in line with the curb as it is today, in line with the parking that we're proposing. And I think DOT's letter made notion of short-term parking or something of that effect for a loading drop-off space. But we do envision it being near that area because that's where our lobby is.
Oh, well, so
Right, so I don't really want it right directly in front of your lobby. It's for everybody's use unless you want to go through a franchise agreement.
Well, and I think the other issue too is the functional distance of the intersection. I think Deepak quoted you on like what the minimum distance is where we can have parked cars.
That is, code, I think I mentioned the code as well in there.
Yeah.
So you cannot have 35 feet, parking in the intersection.
The 35 feet from the travelway.
measured from what point?
Measured from I think it's from the PI. You have to work with Mark on that, how we measure them.
It's usually from the point of tangent, right?
Usually it's measured from the top. I don't know how they measure. You probably have to work with traffic, how they measure it, where they measure it. It's 35 feet from the intersection. Basically that, provides out, that one as well as the street coming in the middle, that as well, not have parking. Right. In line with that. Yes. Some of the parking might go away. Again, that can be worked out at the permit stage or working with market signing and marking, but some of those parking stuff.
That seems like it's contrary to what Complete Street says for one of the options for these drop-off spaces.
No,
which-
no, you can put a drop-off space on your property, but what I don't want is it to be in front of your lobby and then like we have with the project on Woodlawn Avenue, who thinks that that's their loading space. This is for anybody's use
Right.
and it'll be showing short-term parking or something like that. It's not for loading and drop-off, so anybody can use that space.
What harm is there if we're dropping up a disabled person to have it as close to the lobby entrance as possible?
That is under, if you want an accessible space, that is under
It's,
that is under ProAg, and we can follow that. That's a 13 space, wide space.
I'm not looking for a parking space.
Right,
I'm
so
looking for an everyday function.
you can't use the public right away as your private use, unless you want to go through a franchise agreement, which goes, that's where I'm coming from.
I think that's understood.
Yeah.
It's an open space, it's in the public right of way. It's, there's standing allowed, but no parking allowed. I'm just talking about the Complete Street standard that recommends you have your that drop-off zone at the beginning of the block, at the end of the block, or the third alternative is the center of it. So I just want to make sure that because of this odd situation where we're turning right, basically a free right kind of movement, so different than a typical intersection, that we can find
It's
something
really
that
where the
works
parking can start,
safely.
right?
Right.
It's determining how far up you can put your parking on that side. So maybe you could look at the sight distance from where the stop bar might be for the right turn and where that sight distance line is. Maybe that's where you could get your first parking space so that, it's in line by the time you hit the tangent.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I
It
think
wouldn't
so.
make sense to have 50 feet of curb before you get to the stop bar.
Well, and that's probably why
You
Rebecca was
know what I
correcting me. So what I recommend, I think you're on the right track. I would reach out to Mark Terry and figure out exactly where it can go.
At the permit stage, I just wanted to put it out that there'll be some parking spots.
Yeah, so that all this
Yeah.
parking that you show on your set, in the roadway is not approved. It's approved through signing and marking, so if you can remove that, and then they will determine where they put parking spaces. We generally don't allow them within intersection.
And that's also, you can see here, there's another intersection right there. That's another point that I think Deepak was making in his comments, yeah.
So if you probably could move it down a little bit, like where your first tree is or something like that. Have it there.
Okay. That makes sense. I know we're here at 10 o'clock, just to tick over. The last question that I had was regarding schedule. If you look at the published sketch plan schedule, it has us doing our final submission on December 25th. I don't know that anybody's going to be around to be able to submit something on December 25th. Is there any float in the schedule for us to be able to stay on track?
Please.
Yeah, so I mean, with sketch plan, it depends on the projects, we hope that there's only one resubmission, not two. But if there is going to be a second resubmission, you would need to do that before the holidays then, if you want to stay on track because the hearing date for this one is January 25th. So there's no way that we could push it till after the holidays. So
We'll make sure we nail it with the first one then.
cool. Would you like to walk through the schedule? I know it's the juiciest.
Yeah, that would be
details.
great. Yeah.
Cool. Planning board date on January 25th. So your first resubmission is due by December 6th, with agency letters actually supposed to be due on December 26th. So that would probably be the most difficult date. But, Ian, you and I can chat offline as to when the second or last resubmission would need to be, depending on how that first submission goes. I would imagine perhaps maybe by December 18th or 20th will be good. But we can figure that out later.
Okay, I appreciate that, Grace. Thank you.
Ian, I would also suggest if you were to get your first submission in a couple days earlier than December 6th, then the 11 days for the review period would, kick it back to you guys sooner, and then you could get that final resubmission in sooner as well.
Right, thank you. And a quick aside, that I don't see a 2024 schedule, and we're getting near that point, so I'm hoping that you guys kick one out for us to use moving forward for scheduling.
Yes, that is being released within the next couple days. So if
Thank you.
it might even go out today, but if not, it'll definitely be there after Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Chris and Josh, I don't know if there was anything else that we wanted to bring up, but that's all I had on my list.
Oh, Ian, good job.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Have a great holiday.
No Thanksgiving, but
I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the chief of the Intake Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for 12500 Ardennes Avenue. Your lead reviewer is Emily Tettelbaum. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions you might have based upon the comments you received last Friday. I'm going to ask Emily to highlight any of the major items we should talk about, and then turn it over to the applicant for you to ask your questions. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. All right, Emily.
Thanks, Christina. Well, we're really excited to see this affordable housing project at this location, just a couple blocks from the Twin Brook Metro Station. Since this site plan is very similar to one that was approved on this property a few years ago, most of our comments are relatively minor. So the 120-day project review schedule has you all with your first submittal on December 6th and their final submittal on December 26th. And, if we get a submittal that addresses all the comments, we can try to get you to the board before that target date. That's the 120-day target date of February 29th. So I'd say probably the more time-sensitive comments have to do with the TIS. So I think you all are pretty close to having that finalized. If you want to talk about it here, ask any question, that's probably the most kind of time sensitive review we're looking at now. So we're happy to answer any of your questions about any of the comments.
Okay, great, thank you. So just for the record, my name is Jane Mahaffey. Working with Fairstead on this project. And we have with our team, Rob Bernard from Fairstead, who's to my left. You guys all know Matt Gordon. I think online we have Valerie Hockman from SK&I, Kevin Mack from Dewberry. I saw Trini. I don't know everybody. I can't read all that far away, but it's Trini Rodriguez and maybe Steve from Parker Rodriguez and Nancy Randall from Wells. So maybe since you started with the TIS, maybe have Nancy just give a summary of where we are. We have had some initial conversations with Richard relative to the initial review coming back out and our group. So Nancy, why don't you just go through and ask a couple of questions that we did have relative to that.
Yeah, Richard, we're going to go through. We understand the majority of your questions that you had. We're going to resubmit that. The main question I have is based on a meeting that I had recently with NAIOP and staff with regards to Vision Zero. You had asked for some recommendations with regards to the speeding issue, and we were told in that NAIOP meeting that maybe we shouldn't be addressing that in the traffic impact study. So I just wanted to maybe call you back and just get some clarification on that if I misunderstood what was stated in our NAIOP meeting. So, but I think generally we're in good shape, but if I could schedule some time with you to go over that question. And I think there was one other, and I apologize, Jane, I don't recall what it was. I'm sorry.
All right, give me a minute.
So regarding that, this is Rebecca from DOT. You should be, what we were getting was put a speed camera up, and that's not something you can do. So we're looking we're looking for real suggestions that you think that you could actually implement.
And I'll just note that this is based off of the LATR guidelines as they are today, which does require some information as to what could be done to address the speeding issue if it was noted above the threshold. Right. So that's all I'm looking for. It's just I understand that it may change in the future what the requirement is, but that's the requirement of the guidelines today.
Understood. And just for the record, for everybody's information, we're 1 mile above, 1 mile per hour above the threshold for yeah, and this is on Ardennes only, which is a city street. So
mile above like the 30 mile per hour, or 1 mile above it's 37. I thought it was 20.
Well, it's 20%. So there's a sort of a, to me, and again, this is
a language problem.
It's like 20%, but then it says 20 miles per hour, right? There's a 20%, 20 miles per hour. So we went off the 20% and it's a 30 mile an hour and we're at like 31 mile an hour. So it's,
the speed limit is 30,
right?
And you're going at 31.
At the 85%, right? That's what it's like.
So I don't know.
5th percentile of the 20%.
I never knew there was a 20%, I guess, but we go 7 miles per hour over the speed limit is where we do traffic calming.
Yeah, understood. I'm just going off of what's in the LATR guideline.
So no issue.
Well, so I think you have to address it per their, which.
Well, and I think
the acknowledgement that one location was above the threshold, and some suggestions on what could be done. The expectation is not that is constructed or done, but for the LATR guidelines, you have to acknowledge that it's above that threshold. That's all I was.
Yeah, and we will do that. We will do that within the document. And the way the LATR guidelines are written, it's confusing because it says 20 miles over the posted speed limit. And then the math below that statement in the LATR is a 20% increase. So the LATR guidelines are confusing. So at any rate, I'm assuming that it was the 20% that was intended and that there was a misprint within the LATR guidelines.
I would assume so, but that's the first I've heard of this. By the way,
Yeah.
I don't think you've paid the TIS review fee.
Yeah, we paid,
Yes.
we paid the, and then the review fee, last week was hand delivered up to your offices.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to see what else we had here.
City of Rockville is online as well.
Okay,
Did you receive their comments?
Yes.
Okay.
so we
Or wait,
we received their comments. There were 3 areas that we wanted to have further discussions with the city of Rockville. One was the 8-foot sidewalk versus a 10-foot sidewalk. One was the loading dock entrance and how the truck comes into the site. And the third was the location desire for a lay-by on Ardennes, close to the entrance on that. So I don't know who's on for Rockville.
Hi, this is Farmer Mukhtori from City of
Hi, Farmer.
Rockville. I'm here with my colleague Jim Lapping, but we had a group meeting on our sidewalk requirement. As you know, Ardennes is a business district, 2-class road, and the requirement calls for 10-foot sidewalk separated from the curb by a 7-foot landscape buffer. However, because Ardennes is an existing road, we can accept 8-foot sidewalk in lieu of the 10-foot, and I think that variation within our code is such a way that we don't even need to go to our mayor and council to seek that approval. And as part of your PWK permit that you require for Ardennes, our director can accept the 8-foot sidewalk, so that we don't have any issue with the 10 versus 8 anymore on that topic.
Okay.
In terms of loading and trash pickup, our code does not support having basically either picking up the trash in the right of way or stopping temporary and in the right of way. So we want to see basically turning template within the loading area for both trash and loading that is designated.
Okay.
In terms of pickup and drop off in the city for this type of development, we always look for a pickup drop off, more like Uber service and all that. So we want to see how applicant can provide that type of accommodation.
Yeah, so I think we have Kevin on the line and he's been looking at it. I think when we get, so the entrance to the apartment, you had wanted it within 100 feet of the entrance to the building. And as we get the 100 feet entrance, we pick up that right turn lane from Ardennes onto what I'm going to call southbound Twinbrook. And just so you know, also, we've got the bike lane, which is, I think right now it's a shared lane. It becomes a lane within Ardennes. So it gets really tight right there. There might be a way to put something in a little bit farther back, but it's going to be back behind the 100 feet desire. But we can sketch that out and show you, what's possible.
And I think that 100 feet was something like a goal, but you don't have to strictly abide by it. And your suggestion to moving it back so it doesn't conflict with right turn lane and where the bike lane is merging to the between lanes, we're okay with that. So As a matter of fact, if you can show anywhere along your property frontage, obviously closer as convenient as possible is good, but you can move it back from intersection as far as you can to provide a safe drop off for us.
Okay, we're looking to see if we can do that. I just knew we couldn't do it within the 100 feet of the entrance because we have the right turn lanes. So Kevin, do you have any other questions related to that while we have them on the phone?
No, because it's actually 108 feet from the door is where we can have the that's the end of the taper for the right turn lane. So we would stripe off that portion between the loading dock and the taper, and we'll designate those two parking spaces as short-term loading, whatever you prefer to designate those as.
My understanding was, looking at the plan, and maybe Jim Lepping can help me, I thought based on your exhibit for Ardan, you would not have any on-street parking at all. And if you wanted to do the loading up to your, where it says loading and your driveway actually to parking garage, I thought you don't have any on-street parking. And if you want to do that, you have to cut into the landscape buffer. Am I wrong on that?
No, there's a 7.5 foot wide parking lane against the curb for a portion of the frontage where we don't have conflict with other site elements, like the so between Higgins Place and our garage entrance, there's room for parking for a few spaces there, and then between the loading dock and the garage entrance, that curb lane is actually part of the fire lane. And then we have we have space for two parking spaces between the loading dock and the taper for the right turn lane. And
we didn't see the second cross section, so that's fine. If you have room, then it's okay. I just looked at the one, your section BB, and we didn't see any room, and I thought that was your typical frontage.
Oh yeah, it's labeled on there as turn lane, and it should be turn lane / parking lane. Yeah. Okay. I see the confusion there.
Okay. So that may be able to be satisfied with just a little bit farther back than some of the goals. So we'll show that on the plan. And then I think our big one, well, obviously still to work out, is the trash and loading, but we'll do the turning templates for that to show coming in, and we're sort of tweaking it a little bit interior to sort of help out with the discussion. So I think we'll have something hopefully we can show you in the next round that will satisfy those three requirements. And thank you for the consideration of the 8 foot from the previous project. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. On a side note that you guys had, I remember we had a development in the city and we had the same speeding issue. And what we asked the applicant, and our mayor and council approved that, was to mount the speed display boards on the side of the road to inform drivers that they're speeding. So that was the mitigation measure that we applied to when it went over the speed limit. So just for your information.
Okay.
Thank you, farmers.
Okay. I think Rebecca, relative to some of the things that were in the previous report, and I think somebody noted a 2019 letter from the last one. We'll just go through that. I don't think there was anything. Twin Brook, you asked for the bike lanes. Twin Brook clearly isn't going to have.
Yeah, did you guys pay?
The previous, so weren't the owners on the last round. The previous people had a pay in lieu for the bike lane. So I think that's probably going to be the only way we're Okay. Gonna satisfy that
I
one.
think they never certified a site plan.
They never, yeah,
So
there's no payment.
So we'll
I
have to
wish
update
they
the
had.
Yeah.
We'll have to update the number.
As an affordable housing project, we wish they'd paid before and it was just sitting in your bank account. We didn't have to worry about it. Because we're kind of tight on money, as all affordable housing projects are. But we'll look at, I don't think there was anything out of line in sort of what we looked at in that 2019 letter. I pulled it out and sort of skimmed through it yesterday again, but.
Yeah, I just had her go through it. Brenda's a reviewer, so
Right.
you contact her. But I just had her go through it and just make sure you address like any of the comments, and if we don't need to keep them or if they're out of date.
Okay. I think the only question, I think it's Kevin, was the right of way. Did you have an issue on the right of way calculation?
Well, we are proposing our full 60-foot from center line.
Okay,
So
so that's not an issue.
I don't believe it shouldn't be. No, we're dedicating 5 feet with this plan, which gives us the last bit for our 60-foot portion of the right of way.
So you can't have steps or is there an easement there too?
where?
Along Twin Brook Parkway? Does everything fit within the right of way or do we need easement?
We've designed everything to be within the right of way. But that doesn't have any space for the bikeway is the problem.
But the sidewalk, anything that's required to be in the right of way. That's public.
Yeah, the 8-foot bike shared space sidewalk.
Yeah.
The 8-foot sidewalk and the 5-foot
tree pit
are within the right of way. We are showing a 1-foot PIE.
You're only getting minor spaces.
Simply because the sidewalk is right on the right of way line.
Because anything less than 6 feet, we can't put major species trees in.
I don't know what trees they have proposed there.
Trini or Kevin, do you know what trees are in the Twin Brook Parkway lawn panel?
It's hold on a second here. Let me grab that.
We're having them do an amended soil in sidewalk.
I know
This
we have
is
a
Steve with Parker Rodriguez. We have American elms,
Okay.
hybrid elms, which is a big tree.
to talk about that because I know we have, I don't know what the speed, what's the speed limit on Twin Brook Parkway? Is it 40?
Nancy, do you know what the speed limit is on Twin Brook? I thought it was 35 there.
35.
Yeah, I believe it's 35.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that there's we don't allow major species trees when it's less than 6 feet, I think. And that depending on the speed limit. But I'm not sure.
You mean you allow bigger if it's the speed limit's less?
No.
What
So-
does the speed limit have to do with the size of trees?
Because we don't want vehicles to veer off and hit the tree.
Okay,
The large.
just curious. I'm not being sarcastic. I really want to learn on that one.
So usually in a 4-foot tree lawn, we only allow minor species trees. We have 5 feet, so I'm not sure if they allow major species trees in that area.
Is that why Sam Farhadi said he wants us to follow the 1992 Bethesda streetscape standards?
So I don't know if Sam.
Different issue.
Oh, Sam's not on today.
I think he's away, but I actually heard from him yesterday and he said it's because those streetscape guidelines have an amended soil panel under the sidewalk.
That's correct.
What'd you say?
Amended soil panel is correct way to do.
Yeah.
Right, under the sidewalk.
Yime, do you know if we allow the major species trees in a 5-foot tree lawn?
I think that will be under when the permit stage and the tree guy will review it, but doesn't matter which one, they need the soil panel.
Okay.
And if you're following
But
the panel, I mean, that's.
so let us know, I mean, because we,
That's 5 feet, so.
Yeah,
You should be able to put the larger trees.
Yeah, because the soil goes
That's the whole.
friggin' under the sidewalk. Yeah, that's the whole point, yeah.
That Victoria, well, what the speed is, you need more buffer.
So that
Okay,
the
so-
vehicles don't run off the road and hit the
Right,
tree.
okay, so where do we learn this?
She said a permit.
I'm sorry?
She said at permit stage, I think, right?
But we need to
We
have
can
it
talk
nailed
to-
down.
yeah, but can you provide some guidance on what you want? I mean, it really, at this point, it's whatever you guys want, isn't it? Jane?
Well,
Bob?
yeah, exactly. Sam's out, we can determine when he comes back.
Okay, and if you just want to tell us what tree you want, we'll put it in.
I don't have I don't care. I'm not going into that.
No, I meant, I'm not,
No,
like,
no, no,
if you want the smaller or the larger, well, there's something
Yeah.
specific. Well,
Yeah, I know that there was like it was a 4 feet and a 40 mile per hour that we wouldn't allow.
Uh-huh,
So I don't know.
okay. All right.
Trees that favor bad drivers.
Yeah.
I like Roberts. Want the bigger tree to stop them? Okay, so you answered one of our other questions, which we talked about yesterday, Emily, which was, why is the 1992 streetscape, Bethesda streetscape in a Rockville?
Right, and it's the amended soil panel.
Amended
so you
soil
can
panel.
just take
I
the
know it well.
detail from that.
I know the amended soil panel well. I tried to argue that one many times. I lost that argument too. All right. I think that might be it. We have talked, Marie LeBeau in Fire and Rescue had, she had a number of comments to it. We have had a conversation with her separately and so we'll be submitting those comments back, but we had a little bit of an explanation of what was going on and what was a tree and what wasn't a tree in the court. Mostly we're relative to how the fire department accessed the courtyard was the big issue there. So we've solved that one out. I think, does anyone else on my team have any other ones that that we highlighted yesterday?
Sorry, I just want to mention Jim Lapping from our engineering is also online. Jim, do you want to add anything about the storm connections and all that you had comment on, or they're okay with?
I'm okay unless they have questions. I think it was pretty straightforward.
I guess the only question I would have on that is you want us to take the pipe coming out of the garage also straight across the road? Because we basically have two pipes that are creating the parallel system. One is the drainage from the courtyard at the intersection, and then the other one is the drainage from the building itself. One of the issues we're running into is that the storm drain system in our dens is very shallow, and it's inhibiting our storage volumes for the stormwater management. So I would need to look and see what the depth of the pipe across the street is. I haven't.
That's fine. If you can provide justification to provide a parallel system, that's fine. But
okay.
just looking at it, I thought it could tie out. And so if the stormwater vault, the pipe coming out of the garage is lower, I think going down to the inlet you proposed, the existing inlet I2 would be fine, since that's kind of this probably close to the same distance as crossing the road. It would really just be going, the long run, running parallel from I guess the south part of the development.
Sure. Okay. All right. And I don't believe that the drainage from the courtyard would be an issue for getting into the pipe across the street.
Okay.
But we'll have to take a look at that and make sure all the inverts are working in our favor.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Yeah, that's easy. We'll deal with that one.
Okay, we have,
I guess I have one more, and then I think I've got Valerie on also for Natasha for the area design. So you had two comments relative to the facades of the building and trying to do something different. So we'll take the one in the northwest corner by the trash and loading. So it may not be seen very well, but there is some articulation in that brick around there. So what we'll try to do is sort of show that a little bit, because that was according to Valerie, and she's on here too, that was a comment actually in 2019.
Correct. Okay, and hi Valerie, good morning. This is Natasha. So we work extensively with SKNI to make sure that those corners that they have blank wall have some sort of like fenestration or brick pattern.
Yeah.
Create a better visual, especially for that transformer area for the pedestrian views, and for the southeast corner more for cars driving by, to create some sort of like a gateway and signage. So you guys like create a really nice one for the previous application, but then unfortunately got eliminated for this one. So I know it's affordable housing. You're trying to save on the facade, but somehow if you can articulate it a little bit nicer, especially on the south, the other southeast corner with the, yeah, so that was the request.
Yeah, I think the last project had some dangling artwork or something that came down from that.
Signage, like a 12,
They had a very large, very large signage that was kind of filling the middle panel, if you will. I think of that end and some other decorative metalwork, I guess. But
yeah, we'll have to take that's our biggest concern relative from a cost perspective for us. Quite honestly, I just put it on the table. That because it's a pretty big, it's an expansive wall. And we made some changes sort of on the edges with some of the fenestration, but we'll take a look at it. But we're very concerned, obviously, from that one.
Yeah,
the cost for that.
To do the exact same thing, but something that creates that like the gateway feature and something that you see on the vistas on Twinbrook Parkway.
Right.
So hopefully you guys can come up with something.
If anybody has any artists that wants to donate their time and money, but more than happy to talk to them. Yeah, and I think the northwest corner, was solved the last time. We haven't changed that one at all, but it's really hard to see what we sent you.
Yeah, I kind of
so it was very dark. Yeah,
proposed back in 2019, so I put them side by side, and there were more fenestration, Valerie, on the previous elevation on that corner, especially if you can
on the northwest corner.
On the northwest corner, yeah, there's a blank wall where your electrical room is.
Right.
That is very exposed for the pedestrian that they're walking on a sidewalk. So that's the side that I think previously there were some fenestration, but now it's completely blank. So if it's feasible to have fenestration, it's better. If not, some sort of like a artistic, like a brick pattern or whatever you guys come up with should solve the problem.
Yeah, I think we're leaning towards more brick pattern or some kind of relief, like in and out kind of.
Yeah, so if
element.
you give us like a little like a detail rendering for that corner, we can take a look at it.
Yeah, we're going to try to solve it in a way that doesn't cost more money.
Sure.
Project. All right, we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
Good. That was my last comment. Great.
We'll just coordinate with Emily on our submission. The traffic, the updated TIS is going to go in quickly, but the rest of it, we may just try to make one clean submission in like before December 26th.
Okay.
We'll talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Thank you, everybody. Great. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Christina Sorrento. I am the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Twin Valley. Your lead reviewer is Amy Lindsay, and the purpose of this meeting is really for you to ask any questions based upon the comments you received last Friday. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and I'm going to ask Amy to highlight any of the larger issues that you want to talk about and then turn it over to you. So go ahead, Amy. Amy? You're muted, Amy. I don't know if you, hopefully you're there. She's there.
Yeah, she was just.
I just said.
Okay. Okay. How about we turn it over to the applicant? You saw the comments. You want to ask any
Okay.
questions?
I can start. I guess a lot of the comments have to do with the roads, existing and proposed. And so I wanted to have just a discussion about the right of way, the 74 feet. Open section, we understand that. I guess the question mainly would be the pavement. Were we anticipating parking along these roads? If not, then maybe the right of way doesn't need to be quite that wide, things like that. So what that might lead to.
74 feet, and Deepak can help clarify. The 74 feet is for the swales.
Yep.
The swales have to have a minimum of 2-foot bottom. We also need a shoulder.
Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yes, who we chose.
I can hear you. I can't hear people in the conference room.
Neither can I.
Oh, I thought it was just me. I thought I was going insane.
That's why I thought I'd say something.
Yeah, no, I went to join from my phone because I was like, oh my God, is my network screwed up?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can the auditorium hear us?
No, cannot hear you.
We can't hear you. It sounded like they were talking, so I was getting concerned.
Actually, I could hear them.
Yeah, I was too, because I was like, oh, am I early? No, I'm on time.
They had begun
But
speaking.
don't you need to start us?
Can you hear them?
Well, I've got the plan up, but I was waiting to hear from
Can you
Christina.
guys hear us now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
You can hear us now.
No.
But
So everybody
Wait,
get off.
who can hear? Can anybody hear?
I can hear you, Paul Mortensen.
Okay. And Amy, it sounds like Amy and Sue need to get off. Or Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So it was a glitch. Okay, so we can start again.
I guess I need to start again because I'm not sure
Sorry.
what the auditorium heard. Okay. I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Twin Valley. Your lead reviewer is Amy Lindsay, and she's going to highlight any of the major issues that she wants to talk about here, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. So just to highlight just a couple of the main issues. The first is that you are proposing to use the R200 cluster method on the northern parcel. I do not recommend this for a cluster method because the cluster method is in this zone is really for the preservation of environmental features or the creation of open space. And while this does create open space, the vast majority of it is not usable and is just located between two houses. Additionally, it doesn't meet the minimum retention requirements in forest conservation law. So it really doesn't meet the intent of the R200 cluster. There are also, if you look at our transportation planner, Richard Brockmeyer's comments and DOT comments. We tried to be comprehensive, but talk about all of the frontage improvements, which is one of the major questions you were asking, because this does have frontage on Norbeck Road, on Twin Valley Court, and then on Twin Valley Lane itself. There are a lot of frontage improvements that would be required. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. Suli Cho for the applicant. Good morning, everyone. I believe Dave McKee and Mr. Jane is also in the room. Are they there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I can't see you all. You guys are very small scale. As described by Lindsay, yes, this is a subdivision of 13 lots on the, what I'll call the northeastern parcel, the larger parcel of about 7 acres, less than 7 acres. And then to the west of Twin Valley Court, we've got 4 lots, and which is not under the cluster. We submitted this concept plan for this very reason, to solicit comments and reaction, and to try to understand the scope and scale of, in particular, the transportation related issues that would, arise during subdivision. So today, I think we'd like to use our time to kind of pull the thread a little more, and really try to understand. I hear Amy's comment on the cluster method, and if we were to look at it in terms of a standard method for the eastern portion as well, I assume that then the common open space requirement is no longer on the table. That might allow for retention of more forest, just more conservation of existing environmental features. Of course, that would require larger lots and yield less density, but it's quite a small yield, just even with that, to be able to, I think, address and absorb all of the frontage improvement requirements. And so I'd like to kind of get a better sense of Norbeck Road. Can we show the plan a little bit? The reason we did the cul-de-sac, my understanding is that there really is a significant grade change from the site up to Norbeck that really wouldn't make a connection, another secondary connection aside from the existing Twin Valley Court, really feasible for this small project. And so we really think that the cul-de-sac is the real only option to make, to yield any type of feasible development on this property. So maybe we start with that, to understand if that is something that we can work with.
I would agree that the grade here is substantial, and that is creating some issues, and it's unfortunate because this is the portion of the property that is forested, whereas the portion up here is not forested. And so the forest is where you would more likely want your development to go. But I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, that changes the requirements for frontage improvements along Norbeck Road. So.
Okay.
For Norbeck, Norbeck, from what I see, the master plan calls for a bike path on the other side. So weren't expecting anything on our side, I guess.
Per the Complete Streets Design Guide, as a I think it's a boulevard, if I remember rightly.
Right.
There are frontage requirements. There is a planned side path on the opposite side of the road, but there's still frontage improvements that would be required on Norbeck on this side as well. I believe I put them in my comments. Let me pull that up.
The tree lawn.
Yeah.
Sidewalk, right?
Yeah, and of course that would be, need to be coordinated with SHA on what those would be, but that's, I believe we put in a street buffer and a sidewalk. Now the sidewalk, I think on a boulevard is full side path. That probably doesn't need to happen if it's planned for the other side, but there probably does need to be some sort of sidewalk on that, on the opposite side. Yeah.
Is there a sidewalk to which it would connect? On our side?
You mean on adjacent properties?
I'm sorry?
You mean to adjacent properties, like to the north and south?
Correct. I'm just not familiar with this stretch.
There's no existing sidewalk out there, and so it's possible, and I'll defer to DOT or SHA on whether a payment could be made instead, but I think the site plan would need, or a future site plan would need to show sidewalks on Norbeck.
Well, if we did this standard method, there would not be site plan. It would just be a preliminary plan.
Okay, so preliminary or site plan would need to show the sidewalk, and then it's possible that a fee could be paid in lieu of construction of the sidewalk.
Okay. And I want to just put out there that these two parcels are actually, we brought them together for the concept plan so the staff could take a look at them together, but technically they're under separate potential ownership. And so one may come in without the other. So I just say that in case that affects any comments.
I mean, I think from a frontage perspective, frontage improvement perspective, it would not. It would just depend on which frontage we're talking about, but it wouldn't change the need for the frontage improvements.
So just the sidewalk, not any road widening or anything like that. I wouldn't think for a project like this, right?
Or on which?
For Norbeck.
So Norbeck is a state road, so the state would have to make a call on that. I don't know if they provided any comments. At this point, like the state may ask for a XL decel lane. I don't know. They have asked, so that would be a question you have to ask the state. And then also you might want to look and see if they have any planned improvements as well along there.
So maybe get back to the 74-foot right of way we were talking about.
So we were talking about that. So the interesting thing was, so when we talk about complete streets really doesn't address open road sections, open section roads. So when we ask for a wider right of way, it's usually to accommodate that swale and then the sidewalk. Some places where they haven't put in sidewalk, I don't think this is the case where you wouldn't put sidewalk on both sides of the street. It could be potentially 74 feet. It is reduced from the 78 feet, which is basically a secondary residential street open road section. You can go back to the 2000s, the 1000s standards that are on the website to look at the swale. The swale, you have a 2-foot flat bottom. We need a shoulder of some sort. I'm not sure if it's paved or, like 1 foot paved and then a 1 foot grass strip. And then the 74 feet is proposing a neighborhood yield street as opposed to, and that is with parking. And so Marie would have to agree to that neighborhood yield street. It's basically what you can fit in within the right of way. And then you have to accommodate stormwater management.
Right. So the parking is maybe on one side of the street, or maybe 28 feet of pavement is what I was coming up with, and 74 foot.
Yeah. So
So if you look at the standards, they don't
show parking.
Yeah, 78 feet, and let me look at the 74 one.
Okay.
So 74 one is without the parking. It's just 2 lanes. So it's 20 feet. So if you need parking, you're at 28, basically 28 feet.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. We'd have to look at it again because the neighborhood yield street is to prioritize parking. So it would all depend on if Marie would allow that kind of street, and if not, then you'd have to go to wider street. Now, again, if you could fit less in the right of way, then we can take a look at it and figure it out. But usually the wider street is to accommodate the swale.
Yeah, then you have to grade the swale out to see how wide of a right of way you need. Basically, if you can fit it in that lesser space, yes.
That's within the 15 feet.
Yeah, whatever space.
Edge of pavement on the sidewalk.
Yeah, so you had to fit that swale in to grade it out.
Yeah, and you can just go back to the old design standards. So.
And what are those radiuses over there? The horizontal radius, if it's a public street. So are you meeting the minimum requirements?
We were for that type of street, for
Yeah.
tertiary street, yeah.
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 And it probably can be 100. That's not, I don't think that'll be a problem. But if we go to the 78, then we have to at least make a waiver finding for it.
Okay, so then, so that would be the internal street. Then also we'd be dedicating for Twin Valley Court, I assume, on both sides. Yeah. To get to that 74 feet.
So it's Twin Valley is probably, we'd have to take a look at that road.
There's very little there. There's 20 feet of pavement. There's no curb. There's really no ditch or anything on either side.
So what would you be looking at Twin Valley Court in terms of sidewalk?
Is it master planned at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that probably looks like more of a secondary street.
Yeah, it'd be a
Central.
secondary.
So you probably need a 78 foot, look at 78 foot of right of way.
And that sounds like a lot of right of way to me. I mean, is there any way to reduce that?
It all comes down to the swale. Got to grade the swale in, try to figure it out.
I think we might have lost the conference room audio again, if you guys were talking.
Can you hear us?
Hello?
I can hear you,
Amy,
Mark
I
Etheridge.
hear
Yeah.
you guys.
I can hear
fine.
them,
I've
I think.
thing.
Can somebody say something?
Yeah,
Something.
you guys hear?
Oh, we lost them.
We hear.
Yeah.
No, we hear.
No, I can
most
still
of us.
hear the room.
Okay. Most of you
No.
can hear us?
No, that was me.
Yeah,
So
Sue, I can still hear the conference room.
Yeah, people can still hear us.
You can? I can't.
Two on
Yes,
eight.
I
Oh,
can hear
and we're being told our audio is fine. So it might be on their end. Okay. I think you're getting the comments.
I'm getting the comment.
Okay.
Twin Valley
Huh.
Valley Lane.
Mm-hmm.
We were not proposing any access to that road. So I guess we were not expecting to have to improve that road. That would stay the same, would be the situation there.
So if you're not improving, I think you probably need some dedication over there.
Dedication, yeah, I would expect that.
That is weird.
I'll defer to DOT, but the comment was made even without access that the turnaround on Twin Valley Lane would need to be addressed. And that wasn't necessarily contingent on access being there or not, so maybe.
I think we probably need a dedication minimum, at a minimum.
yeah,
For
we
the
need
turnaround.
to make sure you have dedication at minimum.
Dedicate for a cul-de-sac, do you think? Dead end?
Probably, yeah.
Hey,
Because I
Amy,
don't
can
think
you
we
still
went
hear me?
I can, and I can hear them now. I went to my settings and I turned off it was spatial audio.
I'm sorry.
I turned off spatial
Trying
audio
to-
and
audios.
suddenly I could hear them.
Okay.
So give that a try.
I can call. Is it okay to put it on the speaker?
We only have 5 minutes left. Let's just keep moving.
We've gotten most of what we were after.
Okay.
It really was the roads
Okay.
and all that, the improvements to expect, so.
Yeah, the final improvements will be determined at preliminary plan, but that just kind of gives you an idea of.
Yeah, we do appreciate you submitting for the concept. It's been helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Trang Bui.
Everybody, I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Rich Meadows Parcel 606. Your lead reviewer is Jonathan Casey. I will ask Jonathan to highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to the applicant. The purpose of this meeting is for the applicant to ask any questions you might have based upon the comments you received. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, so go ahead, Jonathan.
Good morning, I'm Jonathan Casey. This is Rich Meadows. The subject property is located in Darnestown on the west side of Darnestown Road. It is kind of in the back of the existing lots off of by Masonwood Drive. I just want to confirm that Jared, that you received Josh Penn's forest conservation comments.
I did, yes.
Okay. So we really don't have a ton of, big ticket items. I believe let me get a closer view. The bigger issues came primarily from DPS regarding the placement of the pool and, sorry, still not the right sheet, placement of the pool and the accessory structure. The best one. There were a couple of questions about the stream buffer impact and how the stream was going to be crossed. But for the most part, there were not any major comments. So I will let the other reviewing agencies go around the horn if we want to start with DOT.
We didn't have any
Yeah,
comments.
this is a state road, so.
Yeah, the state, we didn't have any comments.
Yeah, it's okay. Just turn over to the applicant.
Okay. Jared, the meeting is yours.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. Jared Carhart with Cass Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Kent Murphy and Trang Bui, who are also with us here. So yeah, in regards to the stream buffer disturbance and the route that we've chosen, funny enough, we worked through that for over a year with Doug Johnson and finally came to an agreement on what we're showing on this plan. When I saw Josh was our environmental reviewer, I thought that was funny, but we have enough correspondence and emails to further justify why we have to go this route. So upon our resubmittal, we'll be sure to provide that additional clarification and information to justify that. In regards to the accessory structure being more than 50%, we will reduce that in size to meet the zoning requirements. I did have a question for Matt from DPS zoning to see if he could either provide us with what he believes would be the rear yard determination or just something that can provide some additional clarification on what the rear yard is here, because this lot doesn't have any frontage, so it's not as entirely clear as what the rear yard would be for a property like this. So having something like that will help us address that comment.
Okay, Melissa Gutos, can you help with that?
Yeah, I'm filling in for Matt today. Matt Mikowski's on leave. This is Melissa Gutos with Plan Review and Zoning. We can definitely clarify that and send you our rear lot. I'm sorry, the rear building line and rear yard determination.
Great, thank you.
Was there anything else you needed for that?
That was it for the zoning. Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
The other question that I had was going to be directed towards Josh Penn, if he's here.
No, he is actually out on leave this week, but
okay,
I can attempt to answer a question.
Sure, yeah. So one of his comments was providing a detailed installation sheet for the culvert, the driveway culvert that we will need to install. I was just hoping that he could provide a sample or a project in which he, may have had experience reviewing something like that, just so that we can put something to him that's up to his standards.
Okay, yeah, I think we discussed it previously about using a large box culvert or two box culverts just to span such of that stream as possible, or for a bridge. If you, I think we have a couple of examples that I can look for, and we can send those to you.
Okay, that'd be great. And then while we're on it, he also asked for permanent forest conservation easement fencing, and a detail that, from my experience, park and planning doesn't have a standard fencing detail, do they? Is that just something that?
No, we do not have a standard fencing. Obviously, we have the standard, post and sign design.
Right.
Frequently, we go with a split rail or like a paddock style fence. It's really kind of up to you,
Okay.
as long as it'll stand the test of time.
Okay.
I think paddock is more frequently used because the posts are the same as the ones that I use for the forest conservation signs, but I can ask him if he has any examples of those also.
Yeah, just options that I can provide to the applicant would be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really it. So my last question is, I see that we, have to get this approved through planning board because we don't have frontage. So, in terms of needing an extension so that we can, make sure we have enough time to secure the planning board date, I'd be interested to think how long you guys would say we need to extend this application for.
To be honest, I can't give you a time right now. I can look at the schedule, and I want to talk to Josh about it.
Okay.
Also, input, because depending on, the modification that he requested, there may be a little bit more research that needs to go in on your end, or I just don't want to give you a premature date.
Okay. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And this is the DRC discussion item for CU 202408 Rippling Brook. The lead reviewer is Mark Beal. And discussion items we have on conditional uses once in a while so that everybody can sit around and discuss any of the major items before this gets any further, to help everybody. So Mark, go right ahead and take it away.
Good morning. For the record, Mark Beal, zoning planner for Up County. Today we have conditional use application for Rippling Brook preschool and camp. The pictures on screen as far as what's being proposed. We have transferred the comments that we've had so far to the applicant's attorney, and we will get to them. Any major comments or anything you would like to bring up or ask?
Yeah, looking at Mark's memo of November the 16th, I'm just going to run through a couple things, just more tell you what we're going to do rather than asking questions about it. I'll say to the MCDOT because I think the transportation is probably the one issue that we can make some conversation about, other than my error for not getting the check-in in time so you can start your review. We'll take care of that right away. That's my fault. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. All right. Water resources. We had been misled to believe that we did not have to have a stormwater management concept plan. Jeff's going to take care of that, and he'll work with water resources to get that taken care of right away. We have rescue comments. LeBlaw's comments were very straightforward, can be addressed. I'll bypass one for SHA and fold it all into my comments or questions about DOT, SHA, and parking, planning, transportation. Well, and septic. Sure, we understand this, how we have to basically grow the property, and Ms. Benham will coordinate with her. We yet to hear from environmental. We did receive the comment, or the design from Roberto. We'll just go ahead and talk with him offline on that since he's not here today, from what's in there. And then on the zoning, landscaping, and lighting, we'll address that with Mark and Mr. Johnson. So the only question I guess I really had today was the juxtaposition, and we don't have final comments yet from SHA, which are kind of critical to what the roads are going to look like out in front. But I just wanted to get some kind of reconciliation or guidance from you folks about the width of the roads in front of the property and how to address the bike lanes and all the other features that go along with that. Because I'm not sure they're inconsistent, but I'm not sure I could read them together well. So assuming that SHA comes back and says, we think you really should have bypass lanes, what would that mean in terms of DOT's recommendations and everything on the improvements?
So it's a state road, so SHA has the authority. We just add and try to implement the bicycle master plan. That's fine. And it's really, planning would say, what the requirements are.
Right. So you'd like the 6 plus 6 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And then is the next step, is this going to come with a preliminary plan?
Yes, it will go to the preliminary plan.
Okay. So then it'll be whatever complete streets and bicycle master plan says. In this case, I believe it's bikeable shoulders and a sidewalk along the frontage. Given the speed of the road, I believe that the shoulder should be 6 feet wide, minimum 6 foot wide street buffer, and then 6 foot wide sidewalk. So that'll be required as part of the preliminary.
Okay, that helps.
I just want to add, it looks like you have 80-foot right of way, but it's an open section, I guess.
Yes.
So, since an open section, you might need additional right of way to fit everything in.
Okay.
Yeah, like a swale.
Yeah.
A swale.
Been having a conversation later on that little thing over in Persimmon Tree.
Yes.
Same kind of situation. Got that, Jeff? If I had any questions about to what extent the forest conservation area could be used toward the educational program, I should be talking to Josh about that probably.
Doug Johnson's going to be.
Doug Johnson as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kate Dodorian, if you can hear this and you're on the line, did you have any questions you wanted to ask of the DRC members?
I'm just the questions you've already addressed at this point.
Yeah, well, there's still a lot of information to come in, so we're not sure exactly where we are. We need to take a look with Roberto about that plan to see that we're going to be changing things internally, but for the questions on the exterior, that helps the information we got today. Did anybody else have any questions?
I guess just sort of a general question. I know there's going to be potentially some additional comments coming in. Do we know when or who? Or
For the forest conservation?
Well, that, yeah.
Right.
At least for transportation, we got the transportation study. We've begun our review. It's going to take some time. I'll echo, I don't know if SHA is here. Their typical response time is 45 days from submission, from when they receive it. So I don't know where they are in that review, but it'll take a bit of time.
Swayze, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, so we are currently reviewing the traffic study. I believe our comments are due in early December, but I'll have to double check that. It might be earlier. I have to double check the due date of the comments. One thing I did notice, and I don't review the traffic studies myself. We have traffic reviewers that do that, but I was looking at the peak hour trips into the site, and based on that, I think a deceleration lane is going to be required. I'll have to wait to see what our comments are, but just based on the peak hour volume, it looks like that may be required.
Is it just the decel lane or so an accel lane?
Depending on the peak hours coming out, I just remember the total peak hour trips.
What about turn lane?
Pardon?
What about turn lane, the left turn lane?
I'd have to defer to our traffic reviewers. I'm not sure of the left turns in. I mean, if you have an idea of the left turns in, I might be able to give you an idea of if that would be required.
Just consider that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, and I was trying to fold that in with Chris' recommendation that we go from a three lane driveway entrance to a 2-lane entrance. So we've got right, left, and in. And he'd rather like to see more. I think, what's the phrase used? Conventional commercial driveway.
Yeah, ideally that's what we want is to shrink the size, and we'll work with SHA based on the numbers.
Want to say something, sir?
Well, basically,
Or not
I
today.
think, no, not today, but I think just generally speaking, if we have only one lane coming out, I think that could cause backup into the site, and that may result in people getting impatient and make it less safe. So I
mean, it's something we'll discuss with SHA.
Yes.
It'll be up to them. Typically, we just want small of an entrance.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I understand.
A traffic mark analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't warrant any at any of the unsignalized intersection or the access point.
But Chris, I will impose on you when Mr. Lippincott behind you asked a good question the other night. We had a community meeting. That was, why did we not include the intersection of what?
What is it?
Can you refresh my memory, Mr. Lippincott? Which one did we miss? Which one did we miss?
Brighton North. Brighton North. We did include other.
Yeah, that's okay. So when we had our community meeting, we will have another community meeting, but I told him we would get an answer to that, and you would have had a reason why you didn't include it.
Major section. I mean, there's some single families on there. I'm not sure exactly what you would look for, like, if you did that analysis, like, it would show probably you have to do any mitigation.
Right.
So, most likely, it's like, it's just a connection to a neighborhood roadway.
Correct.
I think you just wanted to hear that it hadn't been overlooked and that it was a conscientious or a conscious decision to avoid it. Okay.
No, the intersections that we suggested and made some changes were approved by all the agencies.
In the scope.
And they did not include that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
major intersection roadway, right?
There's a scoping area for this application's, one ring. So we look at the first ring of particularly signalized intersections. If appropriate, we have done unsignalized intersections in concern for needing a signal, so doing a signal warrant. In this case, our priority was Brighton Dam Road to the north, so we want to make sure that was studied as opposed to Brighton Knolls. Brighton Knolls is just it's a residential intersection. It would certainly not meet a signal warrant. So in terms of signal warrant is what we're concerned about, as well as congestion standards. It was not as high a priority as Brighton Dam. And given we really stick to one signal, one intersection, we picked Brighton Dam.
If I can add, I mean, Gold Mine and New Hampshire Avenue, that gets a lot more traffic, that intersection. And we did the warrant analysis and it did not meet the warrant.
Gold Mine is a major.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Well, thank you. That's all the questions we had. We have a lot of work to do, that's for sure. And we'll be talking to some of your people individually. Or I'm looking forward to getting other comments from the other agents. Okay.
We're gonna follow up once
Yep.
you get those.
Yeah,
additional
right.
comments.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.